Tensions between Russia and Europe continue to intensify as Germany's foreign ministry in Berlin summoned Moscow's ambassador over explicit threats against sites in Germany. Deutsche Welle correspondent Thomas Sparrow joins us now from Berlin. Thomas, g'day. So can you give us some more detail about this decision by the German foreign ministry?
Indeed, the German foreign ministry summoned Moscow's ambassador to Berlin. It's not the first time that happens, but in this particular case, Germany's foreign ministry stressed direct threats from Moscow against targets in Germany, adding specifically that Germany would not be intimidated by this, hence the decision to summon the ambassador here in Berlin. Now, summoning an ambassador is seen, at least here in Europe, at least here in Germany, as a particularly strong sign of disagreement towards another government. So it is expected that this could actually escalate the tensions further between Russia and Germany, between Russia and the European Union. Germany's foreign ministry did not specifically stress why it was publishing this now, why it was summoning the ambassador now, so it didn't give any details about what it meant with those direct threats against German targets. But several media outlets here in the country, several trusted media outlets here in the country, have stressed that that could have direct links to a decision by Russia's defense ministry and by comments from high-ranking Russian officials, specifically within Russia's Security Council, linked to a list that was published about European companies that were supporting Ukraine, specifically when it comes to its drone defense production. And among that list, there were companies from Germany, and the Security Council in Russia then basically stressing that they could also be a target when it comes to Russia's military operations. So that could be the context related to why the German foreign ministry specifically decided to summon the Russian ambassador here in Berlin.
So in what ways might these Russian threats affect broader NATO strategies across Europe amid ongoing Ukraine support?
So it's important to stress that NATO members have been among the strongest supporters of Ukraine since the war began in 2022. Support, by the way, not only in military terms, but also politically and economically. But there is a perceived sense of Ukraine fatigue. This is a war that began in 2022. And as such, there are questions in several European capitals as to when exactly this war might end, how this war might end, what kind of end scenario is actually being discussed, if at all. So what these kinds of direct threats, as reported by the German Foreign Ministry, could actually mean is that they could then enhance further support by NATO members towards Ukraine. They could provide an extra argument specifically related to why European capitals, why NATO members need to continue to support Ukraine in this specific scenario. It's still important to stress that this is one case out of many issues that NATO is discussing within its support towards Ukraine. So it's not only about economic or military support. Now there's also a big discussion about how to focus on cyber warfare specifically as well. So as you can see, the issue is still developing, even though in many European capitals there is a perceived sense of Ukraine fatigue as well.
And so what security measures are European countries adopting in response to similar hybrid threats from Russia?
So interestingly, it was not only Germany summoning the ambassador here in Berlin. The Czech Republic also asked for specific answers from Russia related to this list. There were also some Czech firms among the list published by Russia's defense ministry. Other European capitals are basically waiting to see how this issue develops to then discuss from a European perspective, but also from a national perspective, how they could then potentially step up its support towards Ukraine. In fact, the German foreign ministry also requested other European capitals to then continue stepping up their support for Ukraine as the war drags on. But as I stressed, there are also questions in Europe as to what kind of scenario could be put in place for this war to end. It's a war that began in 2022 that has had countless losses on both sides, that is also affecting European capitals when it comes to its economic performance. So you can see this is something that from a social perspective, from a, let's say, the population perspective, is something that is being followed closely, even though at the same time there is this fatigue that I mentioned earlier.
OK, Thomas Sparrow there in Berlin. A 55-year-old care worker has been arrested and charged with sexually assaulting